Hi everybody, my name is Reese. I am currently working on, and in this video I'm going to demo a Pathfinder 2nd Edition campaign manager that I've been working on built off of Tiddlywiki. Tiddlywiki, for those who are uninitiated or unaware, is a open source personal wiki program that allows for people with not a ton of coding experience to be able to personalize a wiki, to be able to use it to your own ends, to be able to create something that you would otherwise maybe use one of those world managers, something like World Anvil, online for free. So this particular campaign manager is primarily focused on world building, because that's a lot of what I do for running what I'm going to be running in the future for this 2nd edition campaign that I have planned coming up in August. And for me, Tiddlywiki affords a lot of capabilities, primarily the customization aspect that other programs do not. Not to mention, there's a lot of great support and folks online that have helped me get to this point so far. What you see before you is a basic UI that is built off of the Tiddlywiki UI, as well as some plugins that were either provided to me or recommended to me by other folks in the community. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started, show you how this all works. Now, the first thing to know about this campaign manager is that it is primarily built out of a few different core pieces of information that I like to use to be able to organize my worlds. I've done writing in the past for a novel that I've been working on. And I use this, or at least something similar to the same effect, in that, based on personal experiences and what I find useful. Everything is split up into locations, characters, and organizations. There are some other subgroups of items that you might find, like classes, obviously, since this is a tabletop game, organization types, all of it's baked in, and we can get to that in another time. But essentially, what this allows us to do is differentiate different things in the world and kind of emulate in a way that you wouldn't otherwise be able to, keep track of in an easy and informative manner. So in this case, we've got our location summary table, which shows us a list of locations that I've created, our NPC summary table, or character summary table, and that shows us all of our different characters that we've created, and the organization table, which is the same. And all of these kind of give you a brief overview of all of the different pieces of information that you might need to know. These can be changed, and I'm still not 100% set on what information I want to see here. But for me, I generally find that knowing what organization the character is a part of, for the characters, what class they are, what ancestry, and in the case of Pathfinder 2nd Edition, what heritage, since that also plays in. And then their behavior, which for me is how I describe and roleplay that particular character. For locations, it's a less in-depth view, where I can just kind of see what the location type is, which I haven't defined any in here. But if I wanted to change these, I can actually go ahead and edit real quick. I know that this particular location, Walden, is a city, or it's actually a town, and I can go ahead and update that here from that drop-down list. And now we know that Walden is a village, and that gives me a general idea of all these places, and more or less, I could add more things here based on the information I need from all these different places. Organizations work the same way, where it's the type of organization. This cult is obviously a cult type organization, but you can also have trade organizations, religious organizations, anything of that sort. that helps you kind of denote the different types of groups of people that are in your campaign that your party you're running for might come across. So we'll start with location, since that's a primary piece here. What the location allows you to do, and I'll go ahead and select here, within Tiddlywiki, you're able to link to other different articles of information called tiddlers. So by clicking on this location, the Delian Valley, it takes me to the article or the tiddler known as the Delian Valley. And this tells me some information about the place. Not all of it is filled out because this is just a demo and I don't want to get too in the weeds on things. But essentially what I'm taking a look at here is description of the place, and if I have any notes that I need to put from like the GM perspective, like dice checks or maybe some secrets for the players that I want to put in this location, I can. And a location essentially doesn't necessarily have to be wide geographic area. Location can be anything from the Delian Valley, as we're seeing here, to, say, a blacksmith shop, or an inn, or a cave somewhere. Just anywhere that is of note that you might want to put some information on, and we'll kind of dig a little bit deeper into that here in a second. Part of the location template we're seeing here, this is a interface that views information about the area and displays it, is that I can see the description, and I can also see down here that this location has sublocations. In this case, the Delian Valley has a city, a village, excuse me, that we referred to earlier, known as Walden. I can open that up too and take a look at the information about Walden if I've written anything, which in this case I haven't. But in the event that I need to write some information down about what Walden looks like, maybe some other notes about it, I can do that. And I have another location here, the Boiled Basket, and we'll come back to this later. But it is a description of a quaint little inn in the town of Walden. This functionality, what you're looking at here, and this edit screen, is implemented throughout the wiki, and I won't get too much into it because it's a little easier to understand if you have hands-on with this particular program, which I will actually provide a copy of this wiki in the links below in the description, because it will make more sense if you're looking at it with your own two hands, for lack of a better term. And within Tiddlywiki, you could actually just open this file up in Chrome. So it's essentially one single HTML file. The whole thing is housed internally, locally on your machine, and that allows you to be able to open and edit anything that you like in order to be able to see all this information. So I'll provide the copy. It'll be a Google Drive link in the description, and you can take a little closer look at the information therein. So the locations are looking at, the basic information about a specific area. The characters do a similar thing, where I have different information about this character, Herwick Steelfoot. He is a human fighter, and he is associated with the Walden Elder Council, which is an organization that I have put in. And he's in Walden right now. I can see that he's indifferent towards the party. And I can also see his mannerisms and general notes about him. So mannerisms for me, as I've defined it at least, is what I use to roleplay the character for the party. It makes it a little bit easier for me to be able to remember, if I come back to a character for whatever reason, how I was roleplaying that character. In this case, I've listed Mr. Steelfoot here as a surly but warm-hearted man. And if I wanted to be able to add some additional information, maybe I think of something after the fact, after I've already created this character, just go ahead and click edit and go in here and change some things around. So the text that you're seeing before you is written in wiki text, which is a simplified format that is similar to Markdown, but also allows you to do some other things within the Tiddlywiki format. For now, I'll just show you adding a bullet point here with an asterisk. And let's say Mr. Steelfoot is more distrusting of tieflings. And if I put that, I know that in the event there's a tiefling in the party, when I'm running them through this particular adventure, he will treat them differently provided there's a tiefling in the party. And that can make for some interesting role-playing advantages. The character here, now that we've edited that, I can see that it's added to the mannerisms, and this just allows me to keep a general idea, understanding of all my different characters that I have available to me. This list can get quite long, obviously, and there's a way to truncate it, to shorten it a little bit, but right now, since we have this particular list of items, it'll be easier to just look at it as it is right now. We don't have that many characters to keep track of, at least at this time. And finally, we have the organizations, which I've only got 2 in here so far, and they're not too deep currently, but for some organizations in my personal world, I've defined hierarchy structures and other information that would be relevant to characters that might have interest with conflicts with these other different organizations. Kept pretty simple. These are just spooky dudes who sacrifice young women to please their twisted master. And things like that, if I have something a little bit more complex for my particular setup, then it's going to be easier for me to keep track of stuff. The most important part from this point forward, I think, is tying everything together. And the way that that's done is by utilizing the session and campaign planner, which I actually have 2 links to here, and using 2 other forms of organization. That would be the scene and the thread. For me, I use scenes to define specific story beats or maybe one-off different pieces of story beats. Or encounters for combat, for social encounters, skill challenges, really anything that could be defined as a specific beat that requires your attention as the GM in order to be able to keep things moving, and it might carry some significance as far as importance to the story you're trying to tell with your players. So a thread is a series of scenes that completes a type of quest, basically. It has a beginning, a middle, and end, and has defined beats that you want to be able to hit, and how your players get to each one of those is really up to you. So I've created this demo, and it is called the Delian Dilemma, and this is primarily based off of Matt Colville's video on running Dungeons & Dragons. I took his Delian Tomb adventure that he created, and I tore it apart a little bit. I added some stuff, and actually utilized the map as well, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. These tabs here up at the top, each one of these is a view of a different scene, and all of these can be edited in the same way that we can edit locations. And they tell you basic information about the particular scene. The summary is just the information that the main beats that you want to hit. So in this particular scene, we're starting in the Boiled Basket Tavern in Walden. If I need to look at information about the Boiled Basket Tavern, I can. Remind me what the description is of the place. And additionally to that, we can also figure out how we got here. So I've got some hooks listed in case I need to figure out how to pull the players in. And it can be a list of a few different items in case you're looking to get something started or get things moving. As well as the primary conflict, which in most cases for me just allows me to know what I'm trying to drive towards in order to be able to create the drama that makes tabletop role-playing interesting. Without a conflict, you don't really have a point to the scene, and part of the conflict is either going to be the lack of resolution or a resolution, as well as what the players get from it, which is listed under the rewards here. So for me, it's important for me to know all of these different pieces of information so that I can not have to worry about it too much. If I prep for a session, I'll be able to spin up one of these, list the conflict to make sure I know what's going on with it, and additionally to that, list the rewards so I know what the players are getting. And it may not necessarily be gold or experience. It might be an item, it might be information, anything like that. I'm going to put into the reward. It might just be because you find it entertaining, and that's the reward that you're giving to your players of being entertained. The important thing is it has a point to it by having some type of reward. Otherwise, your players are just going to be left feeling like, what was that for? If they don't get anything out of it, it's going to be a failure of a scene, for me at least. So this thread, the Delian Dilemma, as it were, has these three different scenes. Basically, the blacksmith's daughter has been kidnapped by a cult, and they've holed up in the Delian tomb. The beginning here also shows me that if the players are talking to the blacksmith, I can put in information. I put in information here to make it a little bit more dramatic, in that the blacksmith's son, Edwin, also wants to go try to save his sister, and he was originally planning on trying to do it himself, which he's clearly not able to do. And the players have a choice here, and I like trying to drive a little bit more player choice when it comes to different characters beyond saving or killing people. The players can allow the character to come with them, or he can stay. And this kind of goes through the motions as expected, and you can take a look at the file that I've listed in the description as previously mentioned, where the quest is pretty simple. It lists these three different scenes, the beginning, the middle, the end, what happens in each one, and any important pieces of information, and anything else that seems relevant, including baseline information. I usually don't include DCs unless the scene is just a social encounter. For actually running through doing tactical dungeon crawling, I have a different form of going through that, which I'll show you in a moment. But for me, running through a scene can take place anywhere, and it can be repurposed for whatever reason, which is why it's in the format that it is. Which brings us to the battle map, actually. So here, I'll go ahead and pull up the battle map. This is based off of Matt Colville's Delian Tomb. I took his notes for the battle map that he created, which had previously had all the notes scribbled into the margins of the map, and instead I went ahead and created locations for all of those areas. And each one of these different nodes, which is what we'll refer to them as, is a reference to a Tiddler within Tiddlywiki, within the campaign manager. So the Delian Tomb is a location that I have listed, and I set the node here so I can go ahead and take a look and pull it up here. I can see this is the location, a brief description of the area, and if there's any other information I can go ahead and list that here. There is another way of viewing this map, actually, and this is probably my preferred way if I were to be using this particular map. I can go ahead and pull up the screen in full view, and this gives me a bit of a wider screen, so I can go ahead and drag and drop and look at things a little easier. And when I go ahead and pull up when the players are entering into the entrance, it gives me this screen, which is a view of that Tiddler. And for dungeon crawling, this makes it a little bit easier because you can have more specific notes, your checks that you want to go ahead and run, and as you can see here in all of these notes, I've got the dice checks for perception of what the players are going to notice or not notice in any event, and general information about the the different encounters in the different areas of this dungeon. And the same follows through for each area within the map here. From front to back, I added some flourishes, so this could be conceivably run in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And you can see here, more information, more descriptions. And if I were running players through this, I would, after they've entered each room, provided they are able to make the proper checks, I would give them the opportunity to look around and interact with the description that I've given them for each part of the dungeon. And for me, this makes it a little bit easier, so I can kind of determine which parts of the dungeon I need to have more granular descriptions of. And it also allows me to not have the text embedded onto the map image itself. The image in the background is actually static. These nodes, each of these can be dragged and dropped around wherever I need them to be. And if I needed to, I could share just the background image with my players, and they wouldn't be able to see the nodes in the event that that's how we were handling it there. And that's basically the gist of the campaign manager. I would like to thank everybody for sticking with me, and thank everybody from the Tiddlywiki Discord, as well as the various groups that have been involved in the creation of this. If you have any questions about this, you can always feel free to drop by my Twitter, give me a follow, or you can drop into the Tiddlywiki Discord, which I'll leave a link for as well. Any questions in regards to any of these pieces, you can always feel free to reach out, drop a comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks so much.